In accordance with the Bellingham bylaws, today is April 11th for our select board meeting at 7 p.m. As all customary, we will stand to pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So for our viewing public, our honorable chair is out, but she has joined us by Zoom. Dennis is on, but he's not, well, he's saving us from passing on maybe a bad cold, so we'll just leave it at that. So we have a short agenda tonight, and at 7 o'clock we have our Conservation Commission reappointment discussion. I see that Cliff has joined us. Let me just pull that up. What I see here, according to the notes, is that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals that are being appointed for 3-year terms, but it doesn't look like everyone's up for reappointment. We have 3 that are up for reappointment. Is that correct? That's what I'm seeing. So up for reappointment this year is Brian Norton, Noel Leoche, and Ariana Parton.
No, Michael.
Am I reading it wrong?
Yep, Michael O'Hara, Neil Stanley.
I'm sorry, you're right. I'm reading it wrong. Michael O'Hara, Neil Stanley, and Cliff Matthews. So Cliff, you want me to join us up front? Certainly. Neil, come on up with them, that'd be great. And Neil, you're the vice chair, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming. I'm not gonna, one of the challenges that we've had, and Cliff and I had a conversation about this earlier in full disclosure, regarding your residency in Medway, and understand that you have served this board for 20+ years.
Yes.
I just have a couple of questions before I turn it over to my colleagues. How long have you lived in Medway?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. So really 75+% of the time you've served on the board, you've lived here in Bellingham. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
I
great.
lived in Bellingham for 28 years.
Okay, great. And could you just give and help me provide some of your background? I mean, 20 years is a long time to serve on a board. And for me, Conservation Commission is not one of those boards you can just step on and be effective immediately. It takes a long time, but you have a pretty distinguished background in Conservation Commission. I would just love you to give the board and others listening in kind of some of your background, your qualifications, and just a little bit why, you know, I guess it's the goal of some of the board members, not to speak for the board members, that board members remain in town. I'll just say it publicly. I'm a big fan of having the best talent, best people available. And Medway is the next town. It's not like it's, you know, 35 miles away. So I'm just curious if you could just kind of give us some of your background and why we should reappoint. And again, I want to thank you for even wanting to be reappointed.
Thanks. I appreciate the opportunity. And I would like to be reappointed. I enjoy serving on the board. Feel passionate about it. I was raised in a conservation kind of environment. I went to Audubon Southern Camp, not the Y, and my father worked for various environmental organizations, the DEP, EPA, City of Boston. So I was raised with that sort of public service and care and stewardship for the environment. I'm served on the board for 20+ years. I've completed the Mass Association of Conservation Commission's fundamentals and advanced training courses. Got a degree in engineering. I do GIS work for Eversource currently. And again, I enjoy the work. Not all of it, of course, but no, it's a pleasure to serve on the board and to help preserve some of the natural spaces and some of the water quality and stormwater issues that the town is facing and will face in the future.
Any questions from the board?
You know, I mean, I've been on the board for 13 years and I've never supported anyone who doesn't live in town. I'll be voting no for that reason. I won't go into further detail. I think it really speaks for itself.
Grant?
Have we had anyone else apply for any positions on this board? Because we have an open seat as well.
And we've had it posted on the town website.
If I could elaborate on that, Brian Norton was also up for reappointment, and you granted him a stay until June. And he's represented to us that he will, in all likelihood, be resigning his position prior to that. That would leave us down. If we were 3 members down, it would be a hardship for us to legally, between the Mullen rule and
Cliff, what's that rule for you? What's the, leaving out, but
I'm
how's
sorry,
that- what is the Mullen? You said
the Mullen rule.
What's the Mullen rule?
Okay, the Mullen rule is a legal requirement that members of boards have to participate in all of the hearings except for one excused and one unexcused prior to taking a vote on the permit. And so that's always a challenge. And we've had situations where we've had some of our applications run to several years because of the technical difficulties that the applicants had and the review process. And we have managed so far to not get in trouble with the Mullen rule because we'll request that the applicant provide a recap meeting. Town council's suggested that this is perfectly acceptable in order to get people to vote. But that's what the 7-member board, right?
So what you just said is that Brian, Mr. Norton, has intimated that it's likely he's going to resign.
He's likely to
Likely to
submit a
resign, so that gets us down then to 5.
Right.
I can say personally that I've reached out to a number of individuals in town that I thought would serve well on the board, and they just, the reaction is, I'd love to do it. It would take me far too long to get up to speed. And it's the same type of, rationale. It's requires someone with some skills, some background, experience, et cetera, to be effective, not just in the first, I guess in the second, third year. The first year is kind of a learning process. See Mr. O'Hara nodding his head. And I remember when he joined the board, it would be like me joining the board back then. It took a long time, but he got up to speed pretty quickly. So for me, as a member of this select board, we can't afford to be down much further. We can't be down to 4.
No, and the reason that we had granted Brian those stays originally was because he's intending to move back to town, which initially is why I said I would like Neil to come in, because obviously you live in Medway now, you're not moving back. But if Brian resigns, then that's very different.
I do still own a tiny little piece of property.
Okay, fair enough.
It's wetland too.
So I mean, a bigger thing that I think we'll have to think about going forward is if that is, I think you bring up a very valid point, Dom, that if people are not likely to want to be on the board because they think it's going to take so much time to get up to speed, then maybe we need to think about that. Or I know it's in the charter and bylaws, like having alternate members like they do for planning board, because that.
We've done that. We have done that. In the
Okay,
past.
because I'm not gonna, this isn't gonna come off sounding very politically correct, but collectively, you guys have been on the board for a long time, and you're not gonna be around forever, so we've got to have some other people that can get into this swing of being on this committee. Like, we have to figure out how to make it a more feasible transition. Otherwise, we're gonna be in real trouble if no one wants to be on the board.
So
So
go ahead, Cliff. I was gonna ask you a question.
I don't know
Go
how
ahead.
we do that, but
currently, we have two young ladies who have come to us and put in a number of years, Ariane Martin and Nicole Leosi, and they had degrees and came to us pretty green, and they are working in the environmental field, and that coupled with the field work that we do. When we go out and do field evaluations, we're dealing with the brightest environmental scientists in the Commonwealth. We know all the big players, and when we go out, it's like school. You know, we go out, we do evaluations, and we always try to get our younger members present to learn from these experiences, because that's how we learned.
Mhm.
yeah.
And so we know how important this is. And, you know, what we would love to have people come to us. We just would hate
Wasn't
that.
Nicole an alternate?
She was an
She
alternate,
was
yes,
an
and so was Ariane.
So there.
So they served as
Okay.
alternates.
So it has,
Yeah,
we have had that in the
Okay.
past, and it has worked out very well for us.
So if we can get someone who's interested in just seeing what it's all about,
To go through the
Yeah.
process.
and then the good news there is that if they decide they want to participate and they've been an alternate for 4 months or 5 months, at least they understand what's
Right.
before us now.
And what you get
And
into.
it's not like, oh my
I
goodness.
think much more
Right.
able to
Yeah.
step in and be productive earlier in the process.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Michael.
This is not gonna come across well, but I have to ask the question. So being completely honest. Do you think your tenure intimidates newer members because of you've got 20+ years experience and you've got people that have joined the board and gotten off the board?
Fair.
We have had, in fact, I think Mr. Stoder submitted a couple of names to us, a couple of members who came to us in 17, I believe. And they were inexperienced. And we worked with them.
Yep.
And they were coming up to speed, and one of them had to resign because of time constraints. And the other
Yep.
had to resign because of
I don't think it matters. They had to
Okay.
resign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't,
Yeah.
we don't need to,
No.
reasons are reasons. We don't
But-
need to know the reason.
No,
But
but
there
the
is-
reasons we've seen is more people with family or time constraints or changes in their life situation. I think we're very open. I think we work well with the newer members. I think we work to try and help them and educate them.
I'll give you an
We have a
example
good
though.
time.
If we had a newer member with 5 years experience and they're getting up to speed, I don't envision them ever being chair or vice chair, given your tenure as chair and vice chair. So, and I use our board as an example. I'm, not to pick on Mike Soder, but I'll pick on Mike Soder. I think Mike Soder was chair of this committee, this board, too long because it was, hey, I just want to stay on another year. And I like the idea of having a chair and then the vice chair and to cycle through. And I've been on the board long enough that I feel like I can speak my piece and not have to be the chair, but the chair also calls for the vote.
Yeah.
And the chair has that control of setting the meetings. And I would venture to say that you probably have never missed a meeting because you call them when you're going to be there, unless you were sick or something.
our meetings are scheduled on the second and fourth Wednesdays. So it's just a question of, okay.
No, I guess your site visits too. I mean, if they were Saturdays or.
Yeah, they're always on Saturdays
Yeah.
because that's when most of our members are
Right.
there.
Makes sense.
Right, so I guess, would you ever envision yourself not being chair? Because, I think Neil or Mike could do that role and you could be just as effective. Because I'll just throw that, maybe there's people out there that don't want to because they can't crack the glass ceiling of your experience.
I think that there is an intimidation factor with the Conservation Commission, but I don't know.
And that's based on knowledge and everything else, like.
And I think that's where it comes in because, with our the two members that have resigned most recently, they were inexperienced and they were intimidated because now we're dealing with biology and we're dealing with professional wetland science and we're dealing with engineering. And so there is an intimidation factor with all of these different disciplines that come into the permit. And I know, for instance, you folks watched us do lot 81. And I know everybody's thinking, why are they beating this to death? And you know, we beat it to death and then the applicant still ignored our permit.
Yeah.
And so it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, your board, your commission is in the same situation as most of our town positions. People beat the crap out of us on social media,
Yeah.
but no one steps up.
Yeah.
And we have one contested race in this town for planning board. And if not for Mike and Jen running for school committee, we'd have no one running for school committee. So thank God people do that, and thank God we have you guys.
Yeah.
But it's a frustration. So my question was, would you even amongst yourselves switch roles just to give that different perspective? I mean, you've been chair for 30 years. 35.
Yeah.
More than 20.
More than 20.
I like that. I like that.
And that's a fair observation, but again, your skill set is highly technical. You know, we lean on each other for different skill sets. You know, Michael's very strong in the finance side, and you know, it's all we kind of lean on him a little bit here, but he doesn't need to be the chair for us to lean on him to give us his perspective on the finance side. That's his background. And I was going to ask Mr. O'Haron, Mike, we've known each other for a long time.
Fine.
How long did it take you to get up to speed? And let me just rephrase that. What was your employment background? Don't need to go into detail, line of work, and then how long did you feel it took you to get up to speed under the tutelage of Cliff and Neil to get to the point where you were actually a productive member? Because you are a very productive member, there's no question. But how long did that take you?
Well, I don't really consider myself up to speed. 13 years in now. I took
Okay.
over a partial term from somebody who resigned, whatever. And I had to look it up because I could not remember how many years it. And Cliff said, "Oh, it's more than 10." I said, "No, it's flown by." I had an environmental studies degree in college. Didn't use it for 20 plus years in employed capacity. Really got into property management for nonprofits, Girl Scouts and nonprofit organization in Boston. So I've taken care of properties basically, and dealt with people. Because that's really what, when you get property management, that's what it is 90% of the time. Whether it's a contract or people working. But I enjoy that. There's a variety for it. For Conservation Commission, the first year or two, I was in awe with how much the technical stuff, the engineering, the biology, and so forth. And I said, "Oh, environmental studies. Okay, great." And I enjoyed the heck out of it because one of the biggest thrills is seeing parts of town you would never see otherwise. You drive down a road in Bellingham and you don't go look off to the side and see what's beyond that field, whatever. Well, we walked there or down beside the railroad tracks, whatever.
Yeah.
So seeing parts of town, meeting different people, that part of it, you get up to speed with really quickly. I do not think if Cliff was not chair, that the Conservation Commission could function without his being in a role, not chair role, without that technical support. Cliff and Ann, because, and it's only with 3 years of experience or becoming an engineer, look at the engineering reports that these developers, engineers have provided for us, along with a consultant, and they thoroughly review it. You can tell these people are very much respectful of the fact that they know that we know our stuff. They'll say it repeatedly during meetings. "Wow, you guys really know your stuff here." We're not beating them up. We're not browbeating. It's all scientific. It's based on facts. Did you look at this? But it's the level of engineering I don't think I'll ever get to. So I don't consider myself fully trained. I took fundamentals classes consistently for the first couple of years through the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions. They offer them at their annual meeting at Holy Cross. Enjoyed that. Now I've done all the requirements for that. Got a certificate for them. But I don't feel like I'm a true conservation, which gives you always a learning.
Well,
So
no, I
the
understand
first
that.
couple of years, I think you can start producing, being productive just by using common sense.
So when I say productive, what I mean is understanding the science behind it all. And then when Cliff calls for a vote, that you feel very confident in your vote, that you're just not voting because we're voting. You're voting based on what you've learned and the confidence you have in your vote. Because to me, conservation in this town, in planning, it's really important that you be really confident in your vote, whether it's yay or nay. And that's why I'm asking. So maybe a couple of years it took you to feel confident in the vote, and it wasn't just because Cliff or Neil wanted you to vote that way.
Oh, yeah, no,
That's
no,
how, that's the way I'm looking at it, you know?
right. I think that that's a fair assessment. I
Yeah.
think it depends on the person's personality.
Yep.
I do remember those two commissioners who I had left recently for other reasons. Both commented in their first year or so, how impressed they were with, wow, this is a lot cooler than I thought. Or, wow, I really am learning. And we're going on a sidewalks or something else, and the wetland scientists might point out stuff, and they're like, wow, they were really enjoying it, is what I got the impression of. And they both, I think, regretted having to leave, but
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Sahan Shaheen is in the audience. He's running for the Board of Selectmen. I remember back in the day, when you only set the taxes once a year, when you only do liquor licenses once a year, until you see it 3 or 4 times, you're like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
And I assume there's certain laws that apply in your. I guess my point is, and knowing the members that dropped up, the chair has a lot of power, because the chair, I'm gonna pick on Bill O'Connell for planning board, that person can drag something out for 6 months, or can say, I've heard enough, I'm gonna call for the vote. And I mean, that's a reality of the situation. Now, if it was a different chair, they may not jump to that, but it is a control thing. And I just make the observation that I can be just as effective on this board as not chair, as I think you would be in your board.
So I'll look at. I've participated in the development of over 1,000 permits.
Mhm.
And we've had, I'm gonna guess, I'm approximating 12 appeals. And of those 12 appeals, Bellingham has won 7. So when I call for a vote, it's because, and I always ask for additional discussion, because I want every single member to understand we've conducted this review. Our peer reviewer is saying all of the questions have been answered, but our commission has questions that are outside of, the information we're getting from peer reviewers. And as chair, I never vote. I only vote if it's a tie. So in my
Why is
whole
that?
experience, I've only voted 2 or 3 times.
Handful of times. So.
Yeah,
they want to know why.
Robert's Rules of Order.
You don't need to if there's a,
If there is a positive vote, and so if it's a 3-3 vote, I vote, and I think probably
but if there's a 3-2 vote and you haven't voted,
I don't vote.
you still don't
I
vote,
do not vote.
even though.
But Robert's Rules of Order allows you to vote.
Well, I'm going way back
Yeah,
to
Can I
town
just
council.
take-
sure.
May I just jump in? I think tonight we're here to do the reappointment, so maybe
Alright.
this is part of a bigger conversation that we need to have.
Yes.
Because I do think the information is important, but I also don't know that everyone was ready to have that
Yeah.
conversation tonight.
Yeah, so to that end, one of the things that we brought up with Hillary is, in a 7-member board, we should be 3-2-2, as far as
Expiration.
as far as the expiration of
expiration.
Yeah,
terms.
and somewhere along the lines that.
And somewhere along the line,
Over the years, things get.
Right.
I may have been that
Things-
person because I looked back at my reappointments and there was one where I was a 1 year.
1 year.
Because the selectmen
Yeah.
chose not to, say 16 or 17 or something like that, I think was the year. And the reason I was given a letter, I found it in the files from the town office, was because the selectmen were really down on numbers of people they didn't want to vote. They skipped a year. They basically were just gonna hold you over a
Okay.
year. So that I might be the one that's out of sync, but
so to remedy that, we already have 3 members that expire in 24.
Yeah.
And to fix that, 2 of the 3 appointments should be to March of 25, and 1 of the appointments should be to March of 23. So effectively, it would go 2-3-2, and it would be on that cycle.
Does that need to be addressed by charter, or is that something
No.
that the appointing?
The board, I believe the term can't be longer than 3 years, but in
Right.
order to have a balanced board,
yeah.
you would not want to have 6 people stepping off
Yeah, I get it.
at the same
Yeah.
time. So our board is 2-2-1. school committee is 221. So 322 would make sense.
It makes no difference. I mean, I
that
never did
requires-
it. I filled an unexpired term of
1900.
Theodore Arcan. Theodore Arcan.
You know, Roosevelt.
And so it was, and I've never really
Yeah.
looked at that, but
And the reason why I let the conversation go on, because I know this has been something that, you know, you as a board has brought up before, so I'll let it go, but I think it was a good call. Do we need to make a vote for the terms?
So we need to make a vote as to who, if you're reappointing.
Right.
Each individual, and we can figure out the terms, yes.
So can I make a motion?
Go ahead.
Mike O'Haron and Cliff Matthews reappointed through March of 2025.
Second,
Cindy?
Yeah.
All approved? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
I,
All opposed? None, motion carries.
So,
So then I will make a motion to reappoint Neil Stanley at this point, just to a 1-year term expiring 3 of 2023.
I'll second
To
that.
get us on that, second that.
Okay,
Any discussion?
I'm just I'll vote no, just because it's been my practice for 13 years and it's not for lack of opinion, it's just,
To me, the way I look at it, this is not about an indictment on you, Mr. Stanley, why the 1 year, not the 3 year. Who knows what will change? This board's gonna potentially turn over, you don't know. So I think based on our ideal is to have everyone living in town. I'm okay with living in Medway, just for the record. I'm perfectly fine with that, but to get things aligned. So next year we'd have you back to reappoint you, should you want to be on the board for, 3 years.
and if Brian resigns, we would essentially have another reappointment
Mhm.
in 2023 that
That's
we
right.
could, at this
Balance
point, if
it.
there's only 6,
Yeah.
would be 222 at that point.
Okay. So,
If that makes
it does. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
yeah.
Motion carries. Thank you very much, guys,
So just
for
have to
being
find
here. And I have a
someone.
process question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I have a process question. So after a facility has been completed,
Mhm.
or I guess even as it's being built, how often does the commissioners go out and kind of do site walks as the building's being, just in case they're not following the guidelines that you've approved for these builders? And then you go out afterwards, before a permit is issued to make sure that everything is right. I'm just curious.
Okay, so I know we're over time, but I'll give you a quick
We don't have a public hearing.
thumbnail sketch of what we're doing. Let's talk about a major project.
Yeah.
Minor projects, we'll go out, we inspect sediment erosion control, make sure that's all good. And we'll probably stop one time during construction. And then we have a process where at the end of the project, the applicant submits to us a letter from a professional engineer. And the letter says, we've adhered to the order of conditions. We're requesting a certificate of compliance.
Mhm.
And then we go out for a final inspection with an as-built plan. It's a really good program.
Mhm. Good.
For the big ones, like for instance, the warehouse projects, they are required to provide weekly reports called the NPDES, National Pollution Discharge Elimination. And so we review those. And if we see something that's highlighted for 2 weeks in a row on the NEPDES reports, then that tells us something's not quite right, and we'll go out. So there's not really, for that kind of inspection, there's not really a set inspection time.
Mhm.
So we wait for them to do their federal permit, do the reporting, and then we go out. But even at the end of that, for instance, the Lincoln properties, they will be applying for a certificate of compliance. And then we go out, we look at it, we have an as-built plan, we say, okay, here's what was permitted, here's what was built, and we understand it's not going to be dead all the time. There's going to be some variations, and you allow for that because site conditions are not what we're expecting.
Okay.
But as long as it is essentially similar, then we issue a certificate of compliance. And and they're good with us.
Okay,
Well, I thank you for all you do.
Thank you
because
very
there's no
much,
doubt
yeah.
it's an asset to the town.
there's no question.
No, we want to, I want to thank the select board for letting us come in.
Yeah.
It's great for us to be able to speak with you folks and say, here's what we do. We like what we do, and we're good at it.
Yeah.
No one can
And I am
argue
too.
on that one.
No, that's for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
All right. So the next item on our agenda is on the other business, our special town meeting request. So Dennis, do you want to speak to the special town meeting request for May 25th?
Be happy to. As you know, we're negotiating with the police union, a successor agreement, and one of the items that the town's been interested in pursuing is getting out of civil service. It costs a lot of time, money, and effort to be in the civil service system. It's kind of a dinosaur now as far as how communities manage their public safety. So towns are getting out of it to the extent they can. We did negotiate with the police union. I'm confident we're going to be able to come to an agreement that does require town meeting action. So essentially what we'd have to do is have town meeting direct the select board to petition the state legislature to enact legislation taking us out of civil service. That article was drawn up by our town council and similar how other communities have done it. So we know it'll be accepted or within the guidelines of what the legislative council will require their attorney. We haven't come to an agreement yet with the police union. I have told them I'm going to move forward with this to put it out there for a special town meeting. Tomorrow would be the last day that we can post it to have it on the same night as the annual town meeting. So we'd be able to have it 5 minutes before the annual town meeting. We've done this before, and obviously it saves the cost of having an additional town meeting. If we don't come to an agreement with the police union, we'd simply pass over the article.
Okay. So what do we need to do tonight, Dennis, to get this? Do we need to take a vote or just sign?
Vote to sign the warrant.
Okay. All right, great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Community Development Block Grant Administrative Services Contract.
So are you going to vote to sign the warrant?
Yes.
So make a motion.
I'll
I
make-
think you
okay.
might, Dennis, I think they might need to make a motion to agree to go to special town meeting on May 25th.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Just to approve the warrant for the special town meeting on the 25th. That'd be perfect.
So let's
So
take a
moved.
Second.
second. All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Nay, motion carries.
Who seconded?
I did.
Okay.
Michael.
So the Community Development Block Grant, as you know, we received a grant for the Housing Rehabilitation Program. As part of the grant application, the state provides for a certain amount for the administration. It's not a flexible number. It's a hard number that the state allows communities to spend for the administration. Community Opportunity Group was the only group to respond to our RFQ. It's very specialized work and they've been doing it for a long time. So it's not surprising there aren't a lot of consultants out there to do it. So we'd be looking for the board to award that fee to Community Opportunity Group for the administration of our grant in the amount of $178,000. And that all comes out of the grant award.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a first, we have a second. Mrs. Grant, Mr. Connor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. So we've got the
All
signing.
right, so the next one is just signing the annual town election warrant, and there's no, I don't think there's a vote that you need to do, but just wanted to be on the agenda and
Okay.
officially signing it.
All right.
And it lists the, the day, the time, and
Hours.
who's running the hours, yeah.
Okay.
What are the hours? Are we shortening
12,
them?
I think it says 12 to 8.
12
We
to
are short,
8.
okay.
Yes. 12 to 8 seems to work pretty well. I think this is the third.
Hillary, the
Time
only thing
we've
I
done
would
these?
ask is if perhaps Larry can remind the high school to not let the students park in lot number 2 at 7:30 in the morning, because otherwise there'll be no space at noon.
Lot number 2.
2,
Yes, which is the senior parking lot.
yeah, student parking.
So have Larry remind the high school.
Yeah, that just,
Yes.
it's just, I may have an appointment in the morning. Wouldn't be there to do.
So the next on the agenda is a bid award for roadway crack sealing. The 2022 contract is 2022 RS. Bids were open on March 10th. And the project is, we'll seal the cracks. There's a list of roads in the summary. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move the contract 2022 RCS road crack sealing be awarded to the low bidder, Superior Seal Coating Inc. of Wilmington, Massachusetts.
Do we have a second?
Second,
First by Mr. Connors. We have a second by Mrs. Grant. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Gifts, grants, and acceptance. All right, the following gifts and grants are presented to the Board of Selectmen for review and acceptance to authorize spending without appropriation as per Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A. In the amount of $9,100 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Cultural Council for the purpose of Cultural Council Town Fund, Spending Authority Town Administrator, $22,755 from Commonwealth of Mass Executive Office of Environmental Affairs for purpose of the Community Farm, Spending Authority Town Administrator, and an amount of $2,500 Commonwealth of Massachusetts Exec Office of Public Safety and Security for automated external defibrillators, Spending Authority Fire Chief. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the gifts and grants as listed herein with said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties noted.
A second?
Second,
First by Mr. Connors, second by Mrs. Grant.
may I make just one comment?
You
Dennis, the community farm grant, is that the one that Mickey DeFoss put in for
She's done-
community farm?
Yep, she's done a great job getting involved there. She submitted that grant and $22,000 from the farm stand there and do some other things with that farm stand on Center Street. So I was skeptical when they wanted to get that going again a year ago, but she's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I wanted it just noted because we had talked about it, and that's a pretty good chunk of change for the farm director to get for our community. So that's pretty awesome.
Excellent. All right, so, okay.
We had a motion.
We had a
second,
motion, second,
but
need to call
we
for a
had
vote?
Right.
Gonna call for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, motion carries. All right. Ripping through it.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from March 21st, March 7th, and February 26th as presented by Hillary.
Second.
Second,
So we have a first by Mrs. Grant, second by Mr. Connors. Sorry, you missed it, Cindy. I apologize.
whatever. I didn't know I'm on the damn call.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
You could at least give me one nod, Don, just one.
Do we have it?
You did get one, like your first one you
got
got.
one. You're the first one.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, all opposed? Nay, motion carries. All right. We have, I think we're
Old business?
old business. Any old business? Any new business? So this isn't new business, this is just commentary. I just wanted to thank our police chief for an action on Saturday afternoon. I don't know if any of you were involved in this mess, but up by the mobile station by Larry's and Outback, there was an event going on where there were several people with signs that said free gas with arrows, and it
I
clogged
saw
up the
that,
road.
yeah.
What's that?
What was that? I did see that. I got caught in traffic twice because of it.
So, well, that's where I'm going. I'm gonna tell you right now. So I almost got clipped coming out of Home Depot. So I decided I was gonna go across the street, find out what's going on. It was an organization that's forming a new church in Bellingham. And to get some activity to their church, they were giving away $20 gift cards for gas. And they were trying to give up to $10,000 in free gas on Saturday. So imagine what it was like. It's like putting a big block of cheese in the middle of the room and sending all the rats to it. That's what it was like up at that intersection. So when I was in the middle of it, I called the police chief. He knew about it, said he had a couple of details up there, but I saw one police officer at the mobile station trying to direct traffic inside the mobile station. They weren't out on the roads, and it was a mess. I'm being kind by saying it was a mess. So the police, he went up there, he spoke to the gentleman in charge, they shut it down because it was a cluster, you know what. And so all I'm saying is, I don't know if something like this that goes on requires a permit in the town or requires some form of notice. They did have 2 details, but the details were inside the mobile station parking lot, trying to get people in and out of the station so they could keep the roads flowing. It was a mess.
Paid for the details.
It must have been this organization. I don't know. So all I said to Chief Daigle was, if something like this comes up, maybe think through it, because middle of the day on a Saturday, free gas, it was a mess. I'm surprised that we didn't have fender benders. I was pretty close to being clipped, which caused me to become a bit enraged, because it was really close. So I just wanted to just bring that. I wanted to thank the chief for going down there. I wasn't expecting him to get in his car and go down there, but he did, and he shut it down. But I don't know what some oversight we could have for something like this in the future. To me, it's no different than, I think it's the Lions Club or the fire department coming to us saying, hey, we're going to run a boot drive, we're going to have it at the intersection. They make us aware. So I don't know what we can do, but I just wanted to bring it up. I wanted to thank the chief, but also in the future, maybe something like this. Think about it. Free gas in the Saturday afternoon, that caused a little bit of chaos, and it did. So that's all I wanted to say about that, huh?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Dennis, did you hear anything about it?
I didn't. Someone mentioned to me that it was going on, that there was some things on Facebook. To be honest with you, I thought it was a joke. I didn't think, yeah. So-
Literally, this lady pulls out of Larry's. She's coming down the road. I witnessed the whole thing. A gentleman with a big arrow stopped her. She rolled her window down. He gave her a card for $20 worth of gas. She literally tried to back up in reverse in the middle of traffic to get to the mobile station so she could go get $20 worth of gas. That was going on for a couple of hours. So it was a bit nuts, and I don't know how to control it. It probably wouldn't have come up if I wasn't in the middle of it, if I didn't see it. And I wasn't going to go get $20 worth of free gas and get in the middle of it all. But,
No.
It's like anything, any event that you have like that, we have rules in this town, don't we?
Sure, it takes the time and planning, much like Ernie Bach over there on Route 1 when he gave away $30,000 worth of gas.
Exactly.
Still, it was chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, it was chaos. Absolutely. All right, that's all I wanted to say about that. Town administrators report.
Just a couple of things. Work on Route 140 at the Walgreens as part of the Lobosor project is going to be beginning very, very soon. They want it to start tonight. I don't know if they're able to, but it's going to be going 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's a very deep sewer connection right there at that intersection. So there will be details. Traffic will be detoured from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. going up Blackstone Street. So they'll send the traffic up that way, except for emergency vehicles will be able to come right through it, as they always do. So that's going to be starting. They figure it's about a week, and they're also going to be taking down the Domino's fairly soon, as same contractors will be taking down that Domino's. Again, that's all part of the Lobosor project behind the municipal center. The grant project that we have for the town center, it's kind of hit a standstill. I'm sure everyone's noticed not a whole lot's gone on, waiting for some pole relocations. They've got a June 30th. The grant has a June 30th deadline. They're confident they're going to be able to meet that, but there's still some relocation issues. So if we have to elevate that, we will. Right now, the contractor believes that the utility company is working in good faith with them. So that project, a lot of people have been asking, why aren't they out there working? Well, they really, what they have left is a lot of above ground paving. Everything they have to do underground's been done. So they just want to come in, blow it out, and be done with it once the poles are relocated. We also
Are the wires moving, or they are the new wires already up and they're just taking down what they've got?
No, they still have to move them. If you look at the poles, some of the poles that are there, they still have wires on them. Supposedly, it's just down to Verizon now to get to get them, but it looks like a lot of wires have to, not that I know what all those wires are, but it does look like there are a lot of wires going to that old pole by the domino.
Yeah, I had breakfast at Town Pizza and it was like, I couldn't even put all of these underground.
Yeah,
It would have been wonderful if we could. It would have cost almost as much as the project. We did get some estimates on. It was really steep. It was so much per foot. It was going to be almost $2 million to put it underground. Don did have the engineers take a look at that. It's kind of justify when you think about the condition of all the roads in town. But that was the dollar number to put it all underground, but it certainly would have made a nice improvement. The state did award the contract for the Route 126 improvements from Easy Douglas Street right down to the town center. So that work, they've already done some staking out there. It's totally managed by the state. We have no management responsibility, much like Pulaski Boulevard. So that project is going to be starting up real soon as well.
A lot going on this summer.
Yeah, I'll be asking.
on 126. Last week I saw Don out there. There were guys taking samples, all the stakes are in, all the trees are tagged. It's orange all up and down that
Yeah,
section
it
of
is.
126.
Yeah, we did meet.
Soon.
We
I would say soon.
When's the date? Do you know, Dennis?
for the startup.
Yeah,
They should be mobilizing soon. The contractor's been on site. They've been doing some preliminary work, but it won't be long before you see them out there.
okay, all right. All right, Mrs. McNulty, do you have anything? I know you're remote, you're usually sitting here. You have anything you'd like to add to the meeting? Anything?
I do not think, I don't like this remote nonsense. It's frustrating, but no, I'm good. No need to prolong the meeting any longer than necessary.
Yeah, and are we going to executive session tonight, Dennis?
Yeah, I would be requesting an executive session, so the board would have to be polled. It's for contract negotiations and update to the board.
I'll pull the board, Mrs. Grant,
Yep.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Connor.
Yes.
Mrs. McNulty, will you be joining us on Zoom for executive session?
Yes, I will. Karen sent me a link.
Okay,
All right,
Before we close, just I attended Jen Goslin's retirement and just a shout out to her many years of service to the town.
that's great. Yeah, absolutely. It was
you.
really nice.
Yeah.
That's excellent. All right, so then we've satisfied our agenda for the evening. We polled to go to executive session, so.
I make a motion to end our meeting at 7:49 and adjourn.
And go to executive.
Go
And go to
session.
executive session.
Anybody second?
Nope.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Michael.
No, second.
Second, Mr.
Sorry,
Cindy got
I'm
off to
I
go on
thought
her
Cindy
next
was gonna
Zoom.
do it. All right, all right, all in
So
favor,
give me a
aye.
Aye, aye.